Дами и господа,
Ladies and gentlemen, the European Commission published the annual progress report for the country for EU accession. The report is not an assessment for 1 year or for one government, but it is a continuity of the reform processes, the level of institutional maturity, and the way in which the country responds to the European priorities. What is most important to say in the very beginning is that the government remains fully aligned with the CFSP of the European Union, because this is a great benefit for the character of our mutual relations and for the level of our commitment to European values. The report notes that in certain areas there is limited or some progress. There are no areas with backsliding, and in 4 areas there is good progress. In free movement of capital, the level of preparedness has been increased due to the joining of SEPA and the implementation of the measures against money laundering and terrorism funding. The Commission welcomes the steps made in regards of the economy with stable banking sector, adoption of the law on internal financial control, and appointing of the members of the Fiscal Council. These are all measures which reinforce the discipline and transparency. Positive assessments for digitization, reforms in public administration, e-procurement systems, and reinforcement of cybersecurity. Progress has been noted in education, science, and youth policies, especially through increased participation in the Horizon Europe programs and cost. When it comes to the infrastructure, the European Commission notes the great activities around Corridor 8, TEN-T network, and the new law on energy, which opens the road to green and just transition. We continue advancing our preparedness in the area of media freedom. It is important to underscore that there is an achieved real progress in key segments of the media regulation and institutional independence, especially when it comes to the financial independence of the Agency of Audio and Audio-Visual Media Services, which has been reinforced, and this is an important step towards transparent and professional media operation. Moreover, the election of the new members of the Council within this agency reaffirms the commitment for democratic processes and institutional stability. These steps contribute towards reinforcement of the public interest. When it comes to the legislation framework, although there are needed additional harmonization with the acquis, especially when it comes to the European Media Freedom Act, steps have already been made when it comes to the law on media. This only shows that we as a government have been actively working on approximation towards the European standards and creating legal framework which guarantees media freedom and pluralism. Of course, the report points out to challenges which the country must address with even more increased dynamics. There are challenges in the area of rule of law, independence of judiciary, and fight against corruption. The political polarization and insufficient cooperation between the institutions remain obstacles which do not allow implementation of reforms. This government is quite aware of these challenges and is working on overcoming. There are new priorities for reforms of the judiciary, increase of accountability, and establishing clear criteria for assessment of judges and public prosecutors. When it comes to the anti-corruption, the process of full digitization of public procurement and transparency of the budget expenditures will continue in 2026. When it comes to the public administration, the government is resolved to terminate the long-term model of partization and to establish a system in which competence and professionalism will be the single criteria for progress. In parallel, there are activities for improvement of the conditions in the prisons, for advancement of human rights, and for social integration of vulnerable categories. Ladies and gentlemen, as a government, we remain fully committed to the European path and the reforms which make the country stronger, more functional, and more just. We will address all areas which note certain a certain stalemate with concrete measures. Our objective is full-fledged membership into the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to present this year's enlargement report following the meeting with the Prime Minister, which comes at a very important moment for the EU path of North Macedonia. As Commissioner Marta Kos highlighted during the presentation of the enlargement package, we face a rapidly transforming geopolitical landscape. Only by completing the unification of Europe, we can ensure peace, freedom, and prosperity on our continent. This is our shared goal. The enlargement report follows the recent local election and the visit of the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to the region. As every year, I have already presented the report to the President, to the Speaker of the Parliament, the government, the judiciary, and to the civil society. Starting this year, my team will also present the enlargement package in other cities and towns across the country to reach and engage with more citizens. The report provides necessary recommendations to keep the country firmly on its EU path. Now is the moment to seize the momentum and accelerate reforms to move forward decisively. Compared with last year's report, as mentioned by the Prime Minister, some progress has been made. However, this underlines the need for renewed effort and commitment across the political spectrum. There has been no progress on judicial reforms in the fight against corruption. This remains essential. These are not just benchmarks, they are the foundation for citizens' trust and for the country's European future. So for the third year in a row, in these areas we have no significant progress, yet this is precisely where renewed commitment can make the greatest difference. Ensuring the independence and financial autonomy of the judiciary, free from interference, will be key to restoring public trust and moving reforms forward. This will also require adequate financing, which means that the necessary increase in funding should be reflected in the draft budget for 2026 to ensure that resources match the country's reform ambitions. With regard to the fight against corruption, I want to highlight that we need swiftly to amend the criminal code in line with the decision of the Constitutional Court. So to build on this positive foundation, it will be important to overcome political divisions, accelerate pending reforms, and complete the long overdue appointments. Progress on constitutional changes remains pending, but there is a real opportunity to relaunch dialogue and move ahead with this crucial commitment. We welcome that the country has continued developing the roadmaps for the rule of law, public administration reform, and the functioning of democratic institutions, as well as the plan on protection, the action plan on protection of minorities, which are key preparatory steps for meeting the opening benchmarks of the fundamentals cluster in the EU accession process. We look forward to seeing these important documents being adopted by the year end and to move forward with the integration process. Across policy areas, reform efforts have slowed, yet encouraging developments stand out, such as advances in the free movement of capital, science and research, and customs cooperations, and the other areas mentioned by the Prime Minister. The task ahead is clear, and work should start without further delay as we aspire to see North Macedonia making the most of the current momentum. As Presidents von der Leyen and Costa also underlined, the European Union stands by your side throughout this process, but ownership must remain yours. The European Union has been working hard to advance the gradual integration of the country. Just a few weeks ago, the country joined SEPA, bringing very tangible benefits to citizens and businesses alike. Discussions on the extension of roaming are progressing, and the growth plan provides substantial financial support. Another concrete example is in the field of artificial intelligence, where North Macedonia is one of only 3 candidate countries, together with Serbia and Moldova, to host artificial intelligence antennas as part of the EU's AI innovation package. You can rest assured, swift EU enlargement remains our shared priority and goal, especially in the current geopolitical context. In this regard, we highly appreciate that the country has maintained full alignment with the EU's common foreign and security policy, including on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. This demonstrates that the country continues to be a reliable partner, firmly sharing the European Union's values and priorities. In conclusion, your country has come a long way on its European path. The foundations are there. Now it is time to build on them with renewed energy, unity, and commitment. The EU stands with you at every step of the way, and together we share the same vision of a future where the country takes its rightful place in the European family, a strong, democratic, and prosperous member of our Union. Blagodaram Valimanderit.
No question. No questions. Good. Maybe it's... Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.